Hey guys, I'm Evan and this is Magnolias in Sunlight, and today is day 24 of DIY or Die, my series where we make a Halloween inspired DIY project every day in the month of October. And today we're going back into that spooky garden scene. I'm loving that for my Halloween decor, and I have been inundated with a plethora of skulls covered in mushrooms. And I love mushrooms. I made a mushroom Christmas tree last year with mostly thrifted items. I have always really liked mushrooms. Back here behind me, I don't know if you guys can see it, is a crystal mushroom from my grandmother. She collected them. So the fact that they're coming back in style, I am absolutely obsessed with and more than happy to jump on the mushroom bandwagon. So I had this guy hanging around in my garage, and I decided we're gonna cover him in mushrooms using some paper clay. And then we'll paint them and make it look cute and fun and match our decor. I'm thinking like brownie terracotta mushrooms, but we'll figure that out. So join me as we tackle this really quick, fun mushroom skull project. I would like to point out that there are a lot of these mushroom skulls all over the internet. There's a lot of tutorials on how to do this. And now that we are so late in the month, Halloween is literally a week away, which is crazy to think about. But a lot of these things are on sale. So at this point, it might be cheaper to purchase some of these items than it is to make them. But if you can thrift a skull, or if you already have one and you have the supplies, I highly recommend you follow this tutorial and make it. Let's, normalize recreating things we already own and thrifting decor rather than buying new. So since this is stuff that's already been in my collection, I just want to make it. All right, guys, so I have a little plate here because this work surface has gotten beat up, chewed up. It's been through it this month with all of our projects. So I wanted a clean surface to put our clay on so that I don't pick up debris from the cork. And then we have our skull. And then I was thinking the best way to do this would be to build our little mushrooms around some baling wire. So I buy this in a coil at the Home Depot. It's usually around the framing stuff, but I've drilled a little hole, and then we can build our mushroom around our wire and then put that in and glue it in place. And I think that's just gonna give us like a more secure connection. Okay, so my first attempt at this was thwarted by a few problems. The tiny wire cutters we've been using for all my jewelry wire, not strong enough for the baling wire. So we now have the garage wire cutters, and this hole that I drilled, I don't have the packaging for this wire anymore. So I wasn't sure what the width of the hole or what the gauge of the wire is. So I eyeballed it, and it is like a hair too big. And when I was playing with this and testing like placement, it almost fell into the skull. So I've also gone down a drill bit size. This is the smallest one I have. It is a 1/16, so it will have to work. And obviously I'm going to attach these with a bead of glue anyway to like really secure them, but that's where we're at. So now we can make a mushroom or, 12. I don't know how many we're gonna make. So I'm new to this paper clay stuff, but it looks like a cool product. And for something like this where I want to paint it and make something really lightweight, I just thought it was like perfect. I'm gonna make my mushroom circle. And like I said, I really want this kind of ruffled edge. And then I think we just attach it like by moving the clay down. Maybe a coil around it to give it a little extra. How attached is this? Because I'm imagining you can't slip and score, which is what you would normally do with real clay. Okay, and now we just cup it like a mushroom around our palm. I mean, that's not a terrible first attempt. I'm gonna redo it. I don't love it, but that's for the first time playing with this stuff. I think this stem is just too fat. I think that's the problem. So I'm gonna take some of this clay off. There, now I like it. The proportion just wasn't right. And now this one will go here. And I have some green moss that I can put around the base as well. So I love that. That's so cute. Now we just make like 40 of them. Not really that many, but we just make a bunch of these. Cool. Hey guys, so I've been playing with these for a little bit. We have 4 of these shapes. Of course, they're all a little different, but kind of more of a curved top. And these all have like a curved bottom. I'm finding that it's easier to dry these on the edge of the plate like this. And then we have this one that's like a really, I don't know, deep top. Like it's taller, skinnier, narrower. Drying that one upside down. This is a little chunky one. I wanted to see what that would look like. And then I need some small ones. And so I started making these, and like, I really like the way these ones turned out with like the upturned top. To be honest, I was making one of these. I don't remember which one. And I just was gonna flip it down. And then I was like, actually, I really like that. And like these up underneath one of these, because we need to like stagger, I thought would be a cool shape differentiation. So these are all sitting here drying. And then I'm going to show you my technique, because I have not perfected it, but I have figured things out. So we take a bit of clay, and I am going to do this length of wire. Obviously it depends on like what size, how tall you want your mushroom to be. So I'm going to make a coil for our stem. And then we have a little cup of water here to wet our fingers down. You don't want it to get really wet, but just wet enough to work with it and smooth things out. I also have a paper towel here. So if I get my fingers too wet, I can just kind of dab, because this is like paper mache cellulose stuff. So from my research, if you get it too wet, it will kind of start to like disintegrate. Similar to clay, right? Like if you get it too wet, it just turns into slip. So we're going to shape our shape and clean that up. And then I've been rolling these into a ball and then kind of pushing it out flat, and then taking here the stem and smushing it into the middle. Because again, I haven't found, and I sat here and Googled a couple of things when I turned the camera off last time. Scoring and slipping doesn't seem to be a thing with paper clay. Not that I was able to find in my quick Google search, mind you. If it is, I'm sure maybe someone finds this and can confirm or deny. But it seems like just smushing the product together is really the way that you attach paper clay. So I'm willing to give that merit because it seems to work. And then peel this up and then start shaping your mushroom top all the way around, just kind of flattening it out, overlapping pieces that crack. If the cracks get too big, you can just kind of overlap them, because we're going to do that in a second anyway. So pizza, like I feel like I'm making like a tiny pizza. Just open it up. And then using my hand, I found this is a good way to start the folding process. And see, then you get these things. So we're going to basically pleat them and then smooth them down. So anywhere you get too much fabric, pleat it and then smooth it together on both sides. Until you get the amount of, like, I keep wanting to call it a cone, but at the end of the day, it's got a rounded top. So is it really a cone? I don't know. I should probably look up mushroom terms, because I'm sure, I know this is the gills, like if it has stripes. Mushroom cap. I'll find a diagram of a mushroom. I'll be prepared for the next mushroom project. So then you just kind of shape and play, and then I'm going to keep working on that one, but for the sake of time, Then I take my piece of wire and I just very gently push it into the stem, making sure that it stays in the middle. If it comes out, you can easily like seal it back up. It's not that big of a deal, but just try and keep it straight down. And I found that's easier than like coiling around the wire and then closing up the seam where those two pieces connect. So there we go. Then you have another cute little mushroom. So I'm going to figure out some of these edges a little bit and just keep going. I made a few more, this one and this one. And then I fixed these two. They were bugging me. And then in the process, I broke the stems off of the caps. So I'm just going to glue those when the time comes. You know, a little like dotted glue right down in there. Pop that in. It's going to be fine. I didn't want to use glue on this project, but I'm going to end up gluing these into the holes anyway. So the glue gun will be on. So we have 4 little ones, a medium one, two really big ones. So that's what, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've got a dozen mushrooms here, and I think that's going to be plenty. I really like these ones. I do have quite a bit of clay left. I do have another project on the docket that I wanted to use this clay for. So I'm going to put a wet paper towel in a Ziploc bag to keep this from drying out. And then I'm going to let these dry, and then we can paint them and attach them with some green moss to our clay, or to our skull. I think that'll be fun. So now we just have to wait for them to dry, which I hate. Least favorite part. Hey guys, I've filmed this clip a couple of times because I didn't know what I was trying to say. But you can see here that I've painted a lot of our mushrooms. I wanted to kind of figure out what color variations and things I wanted to do. I think I want to add some spots to these, and the color combo that I have come up with is like a warm beige, or I have been using this one, the deep peach, for the stems, and then a combination of folk art matte, this is roasted pecan, and Americana sable brown. These are older colors. I don't know if they are technically available, but if you want to make identical pieces, those are your colors. And then I'm kind of combining the 2 browns for the top. So you can see this one has more of the sable, and I'm gonna have to clean that up. That got a glob of paint on it when I was moving things around. I did have to move all of this away because our dining table needed to be our dining table. Who knew? We can't just turn the dining table into a craft spot for an entire month and not have to move things around. But I have kept a couple so I can paint them completely with you, so that it's not like, here's how I did it, and then not actually show you. The thing I have been noticing, and this is something that I knew and I ignored, but you really should let these dry completely. And according to the package, it can take 1 to 3 days, depending on thickness, air quality, like how much humidity is in your air. There's a lot of factors. I didn't do that, and therefore some of these have gotten wet again with the paint, and I painted a little too forcefully and broke them. But that's okay. We're going to glue them back together. It's like not the end of the world. Some of these I decided to take apart, and I was going to glue anyway, just because I couldn't really work up in there too well to attach this. So the glue gun is coming out either way to attach these to our skull. So if anything breaks, we can kind of just clean it up with a little hot glue here and there. Not the end of the world. I think I mentioned in a previous video, but I bought a stack of these little glass plates a few years ago at the thrift store, or it might have even been earlier this year. I hosted a painting bridal shower, and I wanted everyone to have a little plate where they could mix their paints. Yeah, this paint is old and kind of chunky. That's gross. But I found that these little teacup plates that you can find literally for like 50 cents at the thrift store, or, you know, if you can get a stack of them for $1, even better. And they make great paint mixing plates. They make great catch-alls for beading projects. And then we're not using plastic things. We're not buying new little containers. This stuff already exists, and it's very, very useful. So that is my tip for you. Which one of these? That's the one that I messed that one up. So we're gonna hit this and kind of blend that out a little bit. It just rolled up against a wet one that had a little more orange paint, but we don't need to leave it splotchy. So I'm going to put that in the water, and I am actually going to get a little bit larger of a brush for this one, and then bring some of that paint into the middle and really get a good mix going. Okay, so these are ready-ish to start putting on. Basically, I'm ready to start assembling, so I'm kind of going to force my mushrooms to be ready to be assembled because I can't wait any longer. So I'm going to put a dot of glue where I drilled a hole, and then I'm going to put my mushroom in, and then I have a little bit of this moss that I'm just going to kind of tuck around the bottom into that glue. And then we can go back at the end and like make sure that that's all full. But get the drill, because I know I want one to come out of this eye socket. So I'm gonna pop a little drill hole there. And I specifically made this longer one to go in the eye socket. Oh gosh, I'm just making a mess. So I'm gonna put the glue onto the wire there and then push that in place. Come along, go in, there we go. And then again, a little bit of moss down around the base of that. This moss is kind of dry. It'll be fine, it's gonna be okay. And then maybe one here. Don't want to hit the other mushrooms as I go. That would be bad. And maybe do this like little upright one in that spot. Really in between. This wire is like super in between on which drill bit is most useful for it. So I am using the 1/16 because the other one that I drilled this hole with was kind of big. But now I feel like once I put the glue around it, the 1/16 is a little snug, but that's okay. Really testing the limits of that wire there. But that's where we are now. And I really love that. Okay, cool. Cute. I mean, terrifying, but cute. Okay, touch-ups here and there. And I'm gonna need to figure out how to paint this bottom bit with a little bit more of this color. Oh, that was too much, but